We know that school will resume on August the 17th, 2020, and that was a proposal that my team had come up with before the governor came up with the executive order to push back face-to-face instruction. So regardless what the governor does in the next week or 2 weeks, if he pushes back the face-to-face instruction, we will begin school on August the 17th. We will follow the orders of the governor in terms of the face-to-face instruction if we're not allowed to start on the 17th with kids, but we would start distance learning. I think at this point, it's important for kids to start their school. So August 17th is the start date. The scenario we proposed and was approved is a hybrid or blended learning, which means that we have face-to-face instruction on one day and then distance learning on another day. DHS will be following an A-B schedule along with an AM and a PM session to allow for smaller class sizes, and which will be about 700 to 740 kids at any given time. So middle school and elementaries will follow the hybrid blended learning model using an A-B schedule, which means that half of the kids go to school on one day while the other half remain at home. And I'm going to take this off because it fits a little bit big. We're far enough from each other. And on the following day, the kids will switch. So on any given day, for the 3 levels that I just mentioned, high school, middle, and elementary, kids will be able to go to school and have instruction with the teacher in the classroom twice a week. Then twice a week they will be at home, and then that Wednesday that was approved is also considered a distance learning day for all kids to allow for the thorough sanitation of our buildings, cleaning, professional development, and to some very much needed time for teachers to plan. All student attendance will be counted for. This is extremely important, and we will over-communicate with parents, because if you recall, when the governor closed down our schools, the only grade level that grades were taken and attendance mattered was for the high school, right? When we start August 17th, attendance is going to be taken every single day, just like we were in school for brick and mortar instruction. Grades will be taken for every subject, every grade level, pre-K and up. There are no exceptions. And so parents and students need to be committed to the work, and it's going to be extremely important for their own success, because in taking grades and attendance, if you're not there and participating, you may be retained. The attendance factor is going to come to play, your grades are going to come into play, so that has to be excessively communicated by every school to their parents. Parents will have the following options, because this is the main question that I've been receiving. What are the options for me as my child at DUSD? So option number 1 will obviously be to send your child back to school for the hybrid model, if things go well and we are able to start in that hybrid model. 2, you can have your child start via the online or distance learning model if you don't feel comfortable. If parents don't feel comfortable with sending their child to school because they're concerned about their safety, they can keep them at home with the thought in mind that when the parents feel comfortable, maybe second quarter or maybe in January, they feel that their child can go back to school to enroll in the hybrid model, then that option will be available to parents, okay? Option number 3 would be to have your child participate in online for the entire year. So if a parent decides to do that, then they will have that option. Either one of these options will allow a student to continue being a DUSD student. Okay, so parents don't need to withdraw them from DUSD because they feel that DUSD does not have the online option. We will. So we want to continue that partnership. We want your students to continue being enrolled at DUSD. And so this gives parents a lot of flexibility. What it doesn't mean for parents is I send my child to school via the hybrid 1 week, and then next week I choose to keep them online, and then next week I choose to send them for 3 days hybrid. We don't want that. That's not going to be an option. So under the 3 options, we feel that it is very flexible for parents. Hybrid, and you may even, if you start hybrid and then something happens and you may want to then have them do online, that's an option too. So we are being very accommodating. Regardless of any of those three, attendance will be a daily reporting, okay? Whether it's online, hybrid, or any model. Then if we do implement the hybrid on the 17th of August as planned, and parents, let's say, don't have a place to leave their children, I explained last time that under the executive order from the governor, we have to have a place that's provided by every school for those parents who simply don't have a babysitter, don't have anybody to stay at home with their children. Those kids would be allowed to come to school. So regardless of what type of instruction we begin on the 17th, whether it's a hybrid or whether it's the online, we will be providing a space, an instructional classroom for the children of some parents that have no place to leave them, and they will go to school. More information is going to be sent out via every school to their designated parents on that factor. Because at this point, we don't know how many parents don't have a place to leave their kids. And we will be getting that data in the next few weeks. Open enrollment is being carefully reviewed. We'll be looking at that on Wednesday, and normally open enrollment notifications of approval or denial get sent out by July 15th. And so we are carefully reviewing, and this year we're going to be more careful than ever. We don't want to overcrowd one school just to satisfy and approve, open enrollment. In some situations, approving the open enrollment is going to be beneficial to the school who may have a higher number. I explained that situation last week between Ray Barain and Huber Middle School. Ray Barain has more sixth grade kids than does Huber, and so Huber has more space. So we may be able to allow more kids to follow the open enrollment for sixth grade, but we may not be able to do it for eighth grade. So New Student Center and I will be reviewing that this Wednesday, and decisions will be made by the 15th on open enrollment. Food service operations will continue as planned regardless of how we begin school. During the school closure, we only had 4 sites that operated. When we return to school, every site will be running their food service operations. Technology update. So far, obviously, we're not a one-to-one device school district, which means that we don't have every child with a technology device provided by DUSD. We are working on that, and we are slowly, I think this is a perfect opportunity, and a lot of the issues we had over the school closure were technology. Some parents didn't have enough technology. So far we've ordered 777 Chromebooks within just this week, and plan to order at least 500 more. Out of the CARES Act money that's being provided, we've designated about $800,000 out of that money that will go for technology. That still will not put us at a one-to-one device, but IT is going to be completing a inventory, because we already have, every school has some laptop carts. We call them they used to be called the cows, but we have carts. And so between what we have in existence with what we're going to be getting, we're going to be able to divide the number of technology devices between schools, obviously depending on their enrollment, and we will be able to have and loan out, and it will be a very strenuous process, well kept and directed by IT. And so information will be sent out on the first week of August for parents. We're going to send a communication blast via our website, our Facebook pages. So during the entire first week, parents will have the first week of August to request a device. And we're going to do it via online. So if there is a family that has no devices at home and has a third grade child, for example, they will request that, and they only have a 1 week window in order to request. IT will be reviewing those requests, and based on the number of devices we have issued for every school. It will be in a first come, first served basis. So if parents, wait to do it after Friday, the window will close. The following week of August, the devices will be issued per what was able to be granted based on the request. And so for the next week of August, Monday through Friday of that second week, IT will be in charge. Every IT tech that is at every school will have a set date, and iPads or Chromebooks will be issued with a document that parents will have to fill out, being responsible, signing it off to them that they are responsible for the device, and will return it, at a later date. So IT will take care of that. Devices, again, will be issued by IT department, and they will be responsible. I don't want to put this on the principals, so in speaking with Marco Durazo, he's going to organize this with his IT. He'll come up with a form, which will be online. At this point, what I'm recommending is, we know, and all of you know, that the cases in Douglas are increasing. Today, we're at 406 cases, positive cases in Douglas, and I know that the staff is very concerned about coming back to work with kids, and I know parents are concerned about sending their own children to school. And like I said in our last board meeting when the hybrid model was approved, is that in the next couple weeks, we'd be making the decision to either start online for the first quarter and give us this time to see how things go in Douglas, and then by quarter two, we would implement our hybrid model with obviously taking all facts into consideration at that time. So what I'm going to do is by July 15th, which is next Wednesday, the decision will be made. And the reason why July 15th, some may think that, oh, that's, plenty of time. That's not plenty of time. But that gives teachers and parents at least 3 weeks to kind of wrap their brain around, okay, I'm going to start school online, for example. That would be the option, right? And so for teachers, it's to start working in our curriculum department to start implementing what that online distance learning program is going to be. Obviously, because we're not a one-to-one district, we're going to have paper packets as well being issued to kids, which are going to be graded and returned back to the school. And so by the 15th, a recommendation that I could propose is we could have a special meeting next week, on the 15th, that's a Wednesday, or we could have it on the 14th to provide some information and allow for members of our community to do a call to the public via an email. If the board chooses to do that. That way we could hear from either staff or community members or parents so that they could voice their concerns, and then we make the decision by that 15th. I would make that announcement by the 15th. And that is the information we have so far.
Okay, just to make sure that the protocol is followed and is correct, that was a report, so it's not
Yes.
open for discussion.
Okay.
However, if any of the board members have anything that they want to say regarding that, under your report that we're going to get to next under governing board reports, you can make a statement regarding that, just so that she is aware of what, say, your concern was, and that way she'll know, but we can't have
Yeah. A
an
discussion.
open discussion regarding that. Okay, the other thing is, well, let's get to governing, you're done with that report?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll go to governing board reports, and then I'll start it off by just quickly saying that, following up on a couple of things she said, that I have, with all the interaction that I've had since our last meeting with members of the community, there are some grave concerns, as she said, not only from the parents, rightfully so, but our staff is very concerned about coming back. And we know, if we're abreast of what's going on, that everything is fluctuating right now. By the 17th, things could totally go south. In other words, we could have a complete change at the state level as to what's going on, and it possibly could happen. So we need to be flexible, and we need to have a plan B, which I think she has very well outlined as to, regardless of what the circumstances are and what they dictate, that we'll be able to go to that plan. All right. One of the other issues is, and I was just discussing it with Bruce, is a lot of people are concerned about athletics. And I think that we need to be totally on top of that, and I'm confident that we are with the athletic director in the high school, is that parents are concerned about the interaction, the contact that's going to be, especially with the upcoming sports. So the AIA has put out another memorandum, and it's basically the same one they had, only emphasizing more what the constraints are going to have to be. So that'll be my report as far as making statements is concerned, and it was regarding that. And then I would like to formally welcome Denise and tell her that we're extremely happy to have you here with us, and we know you're going to be a major contribution, and we apologize. Your position is it being as low as it is not a reflection of your status. Okay, so. If anybody, especially if Jan Luker's why she's on it had nothing to do with your status, all right? Okay, so with that, I'll open it up, members of the board.
Mr. President,
okay,
I just wanted to make a quick statement that I don't foresee things changing for the better anytime soon, so I'm glad we have an option of at least starting online for the first quarter. I think that's a good idea, and that's probably one that I would recommend. Thank you.
Your report, Doctor.
Yes, I just have a comment. I was talking to Bruce.
Mr. President?
Right now, Mr. Ramos, Dr. Ed has the floor.
Okay.
Okay,
No,
ahead.
go ahead, let him go. Okay, so, and I was talking to Bruce, and I said, what is the population of Douglas? And he said about 14,000. Is that about right? Did you, in your?
I think it's more than that.
14 and 16.
Okay,
16.
but, and you said, Alma, that the total cases in Douglas are over 400?
Yes.
410, let's say?
406.
406, okay. So if you divide 410 by 14,000, it only comes out to 2%. Okay? So when you say, let's let that sink in. When we say the amount of cases and what is the percentage, then people should know that. So that they don't think that it's like 10, 15, 20%. That's my point.
Very good.
That's a good point.
Mr. Ramos.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that I agree with Dr. Gomez, except that the point is, even if it would be 0.5%, that 0.5% should they get infected and have a critical illness and death in the family of someone for that 0.5%, I would feel terrible. So I would feel more comfortable seeing that the first quarter we do online and wait until the second quarter to make the decision to come back on the hybrid.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or board reports per se? All right, then we'll move along to reports by the business office. Mr. Soto.
Good morning, Board President, board members. To me is the balance report for the month of June. Just a quick reminder that, yeah, it's for the whole month of June, but we still have open POs and stuff that we have the grace period of 3 months to close everything. So you see a balance of remaining of 2.5% of the M&O budget, but still just remember that we still have those that encumbrance period that we need to close POs, and so money is going to come back to probably hit the goal amount of 750,000 or 800,000 that we want to carry over for next year. Besides that, any questions you might have on the report?
I'll let members of the board first. Mr. Lindeman?
No questions.
Dr. Gomez?
I just want to know, what is the balance that you're thinking about? Are we going to have a balance?
Right, the carryover that I'm projecting or wishing to have is
Yes.
$750,000 to $800,000.
Okay.
Last year we had 1 million, 1 point something.
Did
It was
we?
above, yes. So again, I'm hoping to have that same kind of amount of money to carry over for next year.
Good.
Just briefly, tell the board, because of the circumstances, what projects or what what types of activities were affected directly that you were not be able to do, that major ones, I'm not talking about the minor ones, that were costly, that we might realize the savings there now?
For this past year or for this coming year,
No,
for this current year?
No, for the past year. For the past year. In other words, because this coming year, of course, we'll see the effects of it now. But
Correct.
But say however long we were shut down and so on.
Right, I mean, for the remainder, remember, we stopped the classic school after spring break. So what we decided to do is just stop all of the ordering for the schools, because there's no kids at the site, so there was no point of ordering supplies and stuff like that. But again, I won't be able to see that savings until the end, when we close everything and then I said, okay, we're getting back all this money. So it was basically a freezing on expenditures for the classrooms and for the sites.
But
That was
my
the main-
question is, what projects were you unable to do because of the scheduling and so on? Right off the major ones, was anything affected that's going to affect the operation this coming year, like, say, any remodeling or anything that was pertinent, not the wish list, but the things that were absolutely necessary? Were any of those affected that are going to affect, in other words, you come back in a month and say, well, we're not going to be able to do that because we were shut down last, that's what I'm talking about. Was anything?
Douglas says that, let me help you out with that, because he may not forget, but the Douglas High School remodeling of
Right,
all the front
right.
offices, we were going to remodel that this summer. This, as you've mentioned, the boardroom expansion or remodeling, to allow for somebody that sits over there not to be so low, because the way it's set up. We have, obviously, the superintendent's little walkway or reception area is one area that has been talked about, but, we didn't move forward in doing anything with that area, because it's not welcoming and it's kind of not a nice.
Not a nice area.
Not a nice reception area for a superintendent's office. Huber Middle School, the admin offices didn't get completely finished with their flooring, painting.
Painting, yeah.
RBMS, the awning.
The
is-
shoddy-
It's
the
gonna
shutter
take place.
structure.
But I think for the most part, those
Yeah,
were
the
the
doors-
major.
the
The
only
doors,
ones.
They're gonna-
RBMS, are they still,
Those are still.
the front doors?
Yes, those are actually on process right now. They're actually replacing those
But there
as we
wasn't any
speak.
project that you had in the hopper that would affect, say, the classrooms or the teachers' facility to do what they had to do or anything like that? There were no projects like that? There were
No,
when
not-
they
not
come back
major
and say,
ones.
well, this didn't get done, this didn't get done.
Not major
Those
ones.
other things
The ones
are
that needed to
nice.
be done were done with painting and remodeling and walls and stuff like that, but not huge projects that we had. That's the only one, the one at the high school.
Okay,
That is gonna
and
have to
then we
wait,
can
but-
get into more of the budget when we have the budget
Right.
hearing here in about 4 minutes.
Mhm.
All right, board members, any other questions or comments regarding his report? And you're feeling good about next year?
Yeah.
And is there any, and Anna, Ms. Samaniego mentioned it when she gave her report about the ADM and the attendance.
Right.
That's going to be a mess. And I think people need to understand that they're going to have to be very, very patient with the district, because there's so many unknowns, and we're going to be dealing with those, especially if something comes down from the state, say in a week or two, saying we're completely shut down again, then you're going to have to deal with the ADM.
Correct.
And that, to be honest with you, that's my biggest worry right now, is how
Yes.
we're going to track that ADM with all of this, all of the variations that are going to be, we're going to be facing with.
And that's why
Okay.
it's very important that we know from the parents what option they're going to choose. And we don't want them to go back and forth with different options, because if they're going to decide to stay at home and be online, I mean, they need to be accounted for. And if they decide to just come to school or do the hybrid, again, because I'm counting on that ADM for next school year.
Is the new student center having any unusual problems? I know that they're dealing with a lot of things that were new to them, but are they
No, what
concerned
they've,
about any?
they're not too concerned. They haven't received an abundance number of calls from parents, but parents asking, do I have to withdraw my child in order for them to be online? Can I start them online, and then later on send them back to school. So those are the types of questions. What New Student Center is going to be doing in the next probably week and a half after the 15th is we're going to develop an additional enrollment form for this year, which will allow us to know exactly which way their child is going to be back in the district. Because right now, we have an enrollment that says 4,000, Denise will say it right now, but we don't know if those 4,000 kids are saying, okay, I'm going to start the hybrid. So we're even going to do a further step in an enrollment form option so that we exactly have the numbers that we need.
How confident are you with the confidence that's being shown at the state level? I know you're dealing with your cohorts at ASBO and everything, but how confident are they about the system and the distribution and those things are coming?
Yeah, I mean, no, I haven't heard anything, no complaints or concerns from other colleagues or districts about this. I mean, we know we are at the hands of the state, basically. If the circumstances are that, like you said, the governor comes up and says, okay, we're going to delay the start of the school and all that. But if they're still giving us that leeway of we can start whenever we want on a way, like let's say we're going to do it online, the main concern of the state is that the students are not, or the staff are not in direct contact. So funding is not an issue right now. They keep saying that the funding is there, that the money is there. The issue right now is the attendance. And again, as every school district decides that they're going to start on an online basis, then we should be good. That's why I'm saying it's very important for the parents that they come to the New Student Center and enroll, even if it's going to be on an online basis, but we need to account those kids.
Just as long as we know, because that's the lifeblood of the district.
Correct.
Just as long as we know that our staff knows how to do everything efficiently, and I'm confident
Correct.
they are, and not to come back later and say, well, we missed this or we missed that, and I know you guys are doing that, especially Mene. She's
Yes.
I know she's keeping up with all the changes and everything that are going on, but we just want to feel good about that. Okay. All right.
Perfect.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
That's great. Okay,
Bowen?
we're gonna recess the regular meeting, and we're going to call to order the public hearing. Roll call.
Mr. Ramos?
Here.
Mr. Lindeman?
Here.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Sabal?
Here.
Dr. Gomez?
Here.
Mr. Bahrain?
Here. Item B, called for public hearing pursuant to ARS 15-905 on fiscal year 2020-2021 district annual expenditure budget. And that at this time, the governing board, through its appointed representative, shall present the budget to the persons attending the hearing. And I think it would be appropriate to have him be there for any questions, and basically what it is, it's a hearing, and it's not a report of any kind. But we do have one person who did contact the district this morning, and I'm going to just paraphrase what the individual said as part of the hearing. And in deference to our community, I wish there would have been more. We always want to ensure that we're transparent and that we're not hiding anything, but the circumstances, again, limit us to doing it in a very unusual way. But here is and I'm going to paraphrase, here is the correspondence and the comment, increasing the budget. He said, I am against the increase. One, for the short notice of public hearing, makes it seem like a rush job with nobody present, especially under COVID-19 constraints. Two, an increase at this time seems greedy, especially with businesses closed down, opened up, and shut down again. Having been a small business owner for many years, I know the hardship faced by businesses to increase taxes now, and is a total disregard for business and citizens unable to work. He editorializes here a little bit, and I don't know if he'd want me to say this, and I'm sure he won't, so I know him, and he's a former member of the board. He says, who in their right mind would buy a car after being laid off. Third, get the business of opening up schools safely is our top priority. Our kids deserve it, and that's from Frank Molina. And of course, there will be no discussion regarding that. And when you summarize, I do, and I think the board would want you to talk especially about the tax rate. And if you would, since there's nobody else is addressing the board, if you would, could you go back about 3 years on the history of the tax rate to the best of your recollection and tell us how it's fluctuated? In fact, go back, if you can, go back to the maybe 4 or 5 years when.
When the
And
huge
the
increase
reason for
happened.
the 4 or 5 is because there was a deficit and there was a problem with the tax rate. And just to show, and especially for public consumption, what has happened over that period of time. So if you can do that, it
Okay.
would be very beneficial, not only to the board, but it would be more so to the community, okay?
Yes. I don't remember the exact year, but I'm going to say probably 2016, 15, 16. That's where the district was having some issues cash-wise. What I always like to say is keep in mind that the budget is one thing and the cash is different. The districts, the school districts in the state of Arizona operate on a budget basis. So whatever budget capacity we have, we can spend. It doesn't matter how much cash we have. We cannot use that cash. We can use it as long as it's on the budget capacity, okay? Back then in 2015-16, there was an issue of cash, okay? There was not enough cash. And what that means is, always remember too that the county is our treasurer. All the money that the state sends comes to the county and then is given to us. Therefore, there's got to be reconciliations every month, every year about those payments. There was a big issue with the county where there was a big difference in reconciliation. In order for us to actually collect that cash and keep operating and not be using that credit limit, the credit card limit that we had,
Line of credit.
the line of credit that we had, then we had to increase the property tax to collect that cash and have it in the county for us to use. Again, I don't remember the exact year, but let's say it was 2016. The tax rate was all the way down to 1.99. And then the following year, it got a huge increase. Oh, thank you, Sonia. It was, let me see, 2014. That's when the total tax rate was 1.995. Then by the year 2015, we had to increase it to 6.18. Yes, it was a huge increase, but then it was something for us to bring the district back to be financially healthy again. After that, we reconcile everything. So after that year, then we are sure that every month we reconcile with the county on the monies we have available. After that, 2016, we had to do another increase to 8.17. 2017, 8.42. 2018, 8.43. On the 2019 school year, we started dropping the property tax. 2019 was 8.04. In this current past year, it was 6.8547. Again, there's a form that we have to work with the county about how much money they have in cash and how much money we have, and then how much money we will need to meet the budget for the following year. So again, we're working on that as we speak for the budget that we're going to adopt today. We don't know for sure. The district always proposes the tax rate that we need to meet those monies. That's not going to be approved until August 15. That's when the Board of Supervisors meet and they adopt and approve all of the tax rates for the school districts within the county. I'm thinking that it's still going to keep going down a little bit, so it's not going to be an increase. Yes, the budget is increasing overall, but remember that the state is giving us that difference to give all of those employees the salary increases that especially the teachers, that 5%. So, again, at this point, we're still very good financially. So that's why I'm thinking that I'm not saying that the tax rate is gonna go down all the way to 199, that's the way it was. It's never gonna go that low, because again, we were getting less money than needed. So that's why we were using the line of credit to supplement the money that we were not receiving. Also keep in mind that there's always an 80% delinquency on property taxes. So every year, we're supposed to get, let's say, 1 million, but we only get 800,000 because of people not paying and stuff like that. Eventually, we'll get it when those people pay the property tax. But again, on this concern, I don't foresee the property tax going up this coming year. Yes, the budget is going up, but we're getting those funds from the state to get those monies.
I don't want to put, and the reason I asked you to do that was for the benefit of everybody, but especially Mr. Molina's comment, that
We're not-
the people have to understand that an increase in the budget,
Does not-
because of where the funding comes from, doesn't necessarily reflect a tax increase.
Correct.
Because, and I think you alluded to it, but if you could just briefly, again, because it's important, especially now, tell us about the difference between a cash balance and the budget balance, because that's part of what this question is here.
Okay.
You may have a budget that reflects $30 million, and it's all on paper, but it doesn't necessarily mean, well, I'll let you do it.
Okay. We only get a percentage of this funding from property tax, and it varies depending on the amount, of course. But technically, or on average, it's probably 10 to 15% of the whole budget comes from property tax. The rest comes from the state and the sales tax and all that. Again, all of the school districts in the state of Arizona work on a budget capacity basis. It's a budget driven entity. What that means is, depending on the number of students we have and the per student allocation the state give us, it gives us the full amount for the whole year. So I'm saying we're going to have 4,000 kids times the base amount that the state gave us is going to give us this full amount. Then they decide, okay, out of this full amount, this percentage is going to come from the county and the property taxes collected, and the rest is going to come from the state. The cash coming in, again, doesn't mean that we could spend up to the budget capacity we have. Let's say right now it's going to be 34 million overall, counting all of the grants. Now, that's a different story, because some grants are federal and some grants are state and some stuff like that. But the M&O portion, we can spend up to that. But like I said before, if we don't collect enough property taxes, and then this is also very important, remember that every year the state gave us that late payment in July, which is like 4.55 million. So we have to have that cushion of cash with the treasurer to finish up the year, because we're always running very low every month. To give you an example, our payroll alone is $1 million every pay period, and we only get 850,000 from the state every month. So I have to have cash cushion to supplement that or to complement that, and that's the main reason why property taxes fluctuate every year, depending on the number of or the amount of cash we have with the treasurer. But that, again, that doesn't mean, some people say, well, you have, let's say, 1.5 million cash with the county. Say, yeah, but that's cash, and I cannot use that to do anything.
Right.
As long as my budget capacity doesn't allow me to, then I cannot use that money. That money is there as a cushion for me to run smoothly through the year and wait for that huge payment at the end of 4.55 million from the state.
Okay, bottom line is, if you see a headline in the paper that says, school district increases budget, that doesn't amount to increasing
Correct.
the tax rate. Okay, so just, has the tax rate been increased from last year to this year?
No.
Okay, that's the point I want to make specifically, all right? And I think where the misinformation came from was, rightfully, the paper reported that the school budget increased, and we
Correct.
know why.
Correct.
But that wasn't commensurate to a
Increase in taxes.
a tax increase. Okay,
Correct.
thank you very much, that's great. Members of the board, do you have any questions or comments on that? I don't think anybody else is going to comment. In fact, it's almost restricted that they can't. So we're going to close the public hearing. And, I'm sorry, Dr.
But
Gould.
I don't know if this is at this time, but just to help people understand, so the money that you have with the county treasurer is kind of like spent money.
Correct.
Yes, in other words, and that's why it's there, because you've already encumbered it in some way or the other.
And another one very important thing for the people to understand, yeah, we do have a 34 million budget. The state is not going to give me a check July 1st, and here's your 34 million, spend it how you want. It doesn't work that way. I wish it was that way. But it's on a monthly basis, again, depending on enrollment. If every month we send the enrollment report to the state and they said, okay, then this is the amount of money you need. But then again, it's a monthly thing going back and forth with the state.
That's why we know that next year's budget, although we build it, say 34 million, but because of the economy, because of all of the contributing factors.
Correct.
If the state is not able to collect all those taxes, we may have a budget balance, but we don't have a cash balance.
Correct.
And it kind of reflects on what he's saying. Okay, thank you very much. We're back into open session, and that concludes the public hearing. And then now we go to the enrollment report by Mrs. Cox, the Assistant Superintendent.
Good morning. So currently, we have 4,067 students enrolled. 142 are preschool students.
That is what you already have enrolled, and those are the same figures she gave a minute ago.
Yes.
Members of the board, any questions or comments regarding
I
enrollment?
have a question. I think there was mention that the parents needed to go to the new student center and enroll, and then what if they've already enrolled before all this?
We
Do
have,
they have to go
and
again?
so, remember that every year, we have to have an annual registration process. And so many of our parents have already fulfilled that, but some haven't due to the school closure and not open to the public situation. But we do have an opportunity to to continue doing that, because they have a drop box outside, so you're easily able to pick up the annual registration packet and then return it, fill it out, return it to the drop box. What I said initially was, in addition to that, because the annual registration is our annual registration process. The forms are the same. What we're going to have to do this year is just, in addition, create a form which will allow the parents not necessarily to enroll, but to tell us which option they're going to be sending their child to school this year. That's it. It's not another enrollment.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Dr. Gomez. Any members of the board, Mr. Sabal, Mr. Ramos, any questions regarding the enrollment?
No.
Item 2A, approval of the following consent agenda items: payroll and expense vouchers 1, 2, and 3, as presented, the numbers under those categories. Entertain a motion to
I
approve.
move to approve.
By Mr. Lindeman, second.
I second.
By Dr. Gomez. Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Sabal?
Yes.
Dr. Gomez?
Yes.
Mr. Bereen?
Yes. Item 3A, discussion action on the approval of certified hires. I see that was submitted by Ms. Cox. Who do you want to handle that?
Go ahead, Denise.
So as presented,
Go ahead.
so Marisa Aguirre will be at Huber as a PE teacher.
Who did she replace?
Jessica Richardson. Jessica Richardson did not leave our district, but she left that position to go back into a science teaching position.
Oh,
So,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, entertain a motion to approve.
I move to approve the certified hire.
By Mr. Lindeman, second by Mr. Sabal. Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Sabal?
Yes.
Dr. Gomez?
Yes.
Mr. Bereen?
Yes. Item 3B, action on the approval of classified hires. Ms. Cox.
So as presented, both of these ladies will be at Sarah Marley, and both the parent liaison and the secretary. I'm sorry, thank you. Both of these, the secretary and the parent liaison at Sarah Marley have left, so they will be replacing those two people.
Okay, entertain a motion to approve.
Move to approve the classified
By
hires.
Mr. Lindeman. Is there a second?
Second.
By Mr. Sabal. Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann,
Yes.
Mr. Sabal,
Yes.
Dr. Gomez,
Yes.
Mr. Berrain.
Yes. Item 3C, discussion action on the approval of donation received for Douglas Unified School District Number 27. Mrs. Samaniego, this was just from one of the last meetings and cleaning that up a little bit. Go ahead.
Yes, and when I shared in my report just was the donation, we had not officially accepted them and approved them by the governing board, and these were the masks donated by Blue Cross Blue Shield. I showed it here at a board meeting. It does have that logo, so obviously we had to get some legal advice on whether we could accept, the mask or not. After talking to our attorney, and she gave us some information based on, and she did just cite here one policy, KCD. She says, per governing board policy, KCD, their acceptance of the gift does not constitute an endorsement for the services provided by Blue Cross Blue Shield. The district thanks Blue Cross Blue Shield for the generous donation under the times that we're facing right now. Blue Cross Blue Shield did donate to, a lot of partners or businesses or whatever you want to call them. But we are a public school district and we have guidelines and policies to follow, right? So under the KCD, she did cite, and it says that the board has to accept the gift and that it does not by any means show that we are endorsing their services. What she didn't cite here, and I did communicate with her, and we have a new attorney now, so I'll have this, I'll take this opportunity. Ms. Candy Pardee is now officially retired. And so I believe Friday, Alma, was her last day? Wednesday. Okay, so she was in soft retirement, still only working with a few of the Cochise County school districts. So up until Wednesday, she was our go-to person, and now we have Jessica Sanchez with Udall and Shumway as one of the attorneys. So after communicating with Ms. Sanchez, she did say that the other two policies that we have in place are KCDR and KHB, which deal with public gift donations to schools and advertising in schools. And so under KCD, she did cite something that is said here. So to be acceptable, a gift must satisfy the following criteria. It will have a purpose consistent with those of the school. It will be offered by a donor acceptable to the board. It will not begin a program that the board would be unwilling to take over when the gift or grant funds are exhausted. So we know that we're not doing any program, right? It will not bring undesirable or hidden costs to the school system. It will not place any restrictions on any school program. It will not imply endorsement by the business or product. And she clearly stated on there with the KCD policy. And it will not be in conflict with any provision of the school policy or public law. All gifts, grants, and bequests shall become district property and subject to the policies of the district. Then we have another policy, KHB, which I discussed with her, and advertising in school. And this one really talks about advertising in the sense of promotion, posters, or any type of propaganda that are issued by any companies that will endorse their business. So based on this, she doesn't, she doesn't see any issue. And we did add her email on your background information, and she says, well, I normally, wouldn't accept this under the certain circumstances that we have here in board language. She does recommend we can accept them, and based on the policies and the fact that we would not be endorsing Blue Cross Blue Shield in any way. She says we could give them to employees, doesn't have foresee any issues. If they are given to students, we would just add a disclaimer or reaffirm a disclaimer that the distribution does not in any way, shape, or form constitute an endorsement of the company. You have a picture of them there. I tried it on again this morning in front of Denise and Cesar, and it's a little big. So for students, I don't see it working unless, parents would put a rubber band or something. So it's more for an adult than it is for children. So we could have it available here, let's say at the front offices of schools, and people can pick them up. We could offer them to the staff if anybody wants to use them. And it is also sort of reversible, so you can just wear it inside out and not have the logo on there as well. So,
Okay, well, the big question after the approval,
Uh-huh.
and she answered it, but still, the endorsement part, if someone's wearing it, and I don't know if you asked her or not, if the logo's gonna show, although it says we're disavowing any endorsement, they're still wearing it, saying Blue Cross Blue Shield on there, but that's okay, I don't have any problem with that. And then, I think because of her long, very professional and effective service, that we should just kind of recognize and thank Candy Pardee
Yes.
for all of her service, not only to the Douglas Public Schools, but to every school in the state. Candy's a former student of mine, and I had the pleasure of dealing with her. When I was at the State Department, she was the Gila County attorney that represented all the school districts in the county. And I say that because she was very successful, and she ended up being one of the foremost authorities on school law in the state. And just for the record, we want to thank her
Yes,
for all her service to
definitely.
our district, and for her very, very professional and efficient. So thanks, Candy, for that. And I'll entertain a motion to approve the donation
I move to approve the donations.
Second.
by Mr. Sabal. Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Sabal?
Yes.
Dr. Gomez?
Yes.
Mr. Berry?
Yes. Item 3D, discussion action to adopt the district annual expenditure budget. And I don't know that we need to say anything more unless you want to add anything to that. Or now, board members, again, you can ask any questions or make any comments.
Yeah, again, it's the exact same budget that it was proposed, so there's no changes. I mean, you probably had time to review it. So if you have any specific questions, and I know before we touch about the property tax, again, it's showing the exact same one we have right now, but it's not going to change until August 15, when we know. Then we're going to do a revision to the budget like we typically do in October, November, and that's the one that is going to have, or we can have mention that new property tax on the September board meeting probably.
Okay, I entertain a motion.
I move to approve.
Second.
Okay, the motion is to approve the annual expenditure budget for the fiscal year 2020, 2021. Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Sabal?
Yes.
Dr. Gomez?
Yes.
Mr. Berry?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Soto. And also a
Sonia.
follow.
Sonia, I think Sonia. Yeah, I'd like to officially thank Sonia and recognize her because a lot of work goes into this budget and a lot of hours. And I thank you, Sonia, for the work that you do in assisting Mr. Soto.
Everybody always knows where the
Yes.
strength behind
Yeah,
the.
she's the one doing it anyways.
You know that.
That's the woman behind the man.
She's there making sure he doesn't make any mistakes.
Yeah.
That's why
Oh,
she's
yes.
sitting there. Anyway, no, thanks, Sonia. The other thing too, back to the advertising, we're gonna get to this. When Ms. Samaniego was going over those policies on advertising, the district does have advertising in the school. We have it on, in athletic venues, and I don't think we have any on any buses or anything, but I think I've asked you, the money for that needs to go to the district, and Sonia, you're here, it doesn't go to the high school. And for years, all of the people that advertise on the football field, the baseball field, the gym, and all those places, the high school has been reaping the benefit of that. Then the USFR says no, then the law says it goes to the school district. And I don't know if you've done anything about that.
Not
I just
yet,
want to
but we're gonna look
remind
into
you of
that,
that.
yes.
That's district money, not high school money, okay? All right, so we got a budget?
Yes.
Okay, so we're ready to go on that. So we're to item 3E, discussion action on the approval of school year 2021 Douglas Unified Community School use of facilities, and this is an annual thing for the rates, right? Go ahead,
Correct.
Mr. Soto.
Correct. It's the exact same form. We're not raising any fees of any kind. Just for your information, I haven't granted any kind of use of our facilities because of the circumstances right now, especially the NPRs, football field, and so on and so forth. The only one that it's been currently is the parking lot of the high school for those testings that Shirakawa has been doing. That's the only forms that I've been approving. But again, I don't know for sure when we are going to start approving the use of our facilities. Obviously, until everything is clear and safe for everybody to use.
Okay, and then speaking of the use of facilities, did you ever get back to the church on the use of their?
Yes, I did.
And
It was just sorry, but that was basically it.
Okay, very good. Entertain a motion to approve.
I move to approve the USD Community Use School Facilities Policy.
Second by Mr. Sabal.
I have a question.
Yeah, Dr. Gomez.
Because you brought it up and I don't hear very well. What happened with the parking lot?
Oh, I just notify them that we're not gonna use it anymore. We'll remove all of our whatever things we had on that
Okay.
parking lot. and that was
He
it.
doesn't know the
yeah,
genesis of the whole
the
thing.
Joe Carlson
But,
parking.
Do you know why they had to do that? They contacted, go ahead and tell
Well,
them.
yeah, because they wanted to increase the
I
fee.
thought they-
But they wanted to start
Exactly.
charging.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
never
yeah.
charged us, but they wanted to start
They
charging.
start charging you, okay.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay, good. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Sabal?
Yes.
Dr. Gomez?
Yes,
Mr. Bereen?
Yes, item 3F, discussion action on the approval of the appointment of district hearing officers for student discipline for the 2020-2021 school year. Ms. Samaniego.
So this is just a common thing that we do every year, and we are proposing Denise Cox, Katie Walker, and Ms. Gail Zamar to be part of the hearing officers.
Okay, entertain a motion for discussion.
I move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
By Mr. Sabal. Discussion. Did you have anything, Mitch?
No, thank you.
Let me ask, of the three, we know that our employees, Ms. Cox and Ms. Walker, that they do it during their work time. When is it necessary to call Mrs. Zamar?
When we've had a difficult situation, such as the one student that brought a weapon to the high school, for example, we asked Mrs. Zamar to do it, just that way no school employee
Yeah.
would be the hearing officer.
Oh, okay.
Very, very few times, and obviously, once we take care of our curriculum and federal programs, director position, then that person can be added, because on any normal given circumstance, hearing officers are pretty busy. There's times when you may have 3-4 hearings in a week, and that's on top of everything, else that you have going on. So in order to kind of balance it, we try to alternate between our hearing officers. So, Mrs. Cox would get one, Mrs. Katie would get one, Mr. Nunez would get another one, and so you try to balance it so that
No, very
we don't
good.
utilize Mrs. Zamar as much, because
Oh,
obviously
no.
it's money.
No, I'm not suggesting that she not be
Yeah,
utilized, because she is
She is
extremely
excellent.
capable.
Yes.
But, and I can see where you would have a controversial
Yes.
case where you would want to use her. No, she's fine, she's
Yes.
great. Okay,
I just had something to say, and that is that, because when I saw the first two, and I guess it's always been done, I thought there could be a little conflict of interest, and then maybe they would need
Yes.
Mrs. Amar or
Uh-huh.
somebody else.
Yes.
okay, we have a motion on the floor.
Yes,
Roll call.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Sabal?
Yes.
Dr. Gomez?
Yes.
Mr. Bereen?
Yes. Item 3G, discussion action on the approval of authorized signatures for the district banking accounts at Wells Fargo. Mr. Soto.
As presented.
Yeah, as presented, I mean,
I'm
I
sorry.
think it's the same.
It's fine.
It's finance. I didn't
Yeah,
know.
that's fine.
Yeah.
I think it's the same people, right? We just
Yes.
added.
I just
Yeah.
moved Mr. Nunez.
Yeah, we just removed Mr. Nunez, so it's Ms. Samaniego, Denise, me, and Sonia as emergency.
Okay, when are you going to bring the determination of where the funds are housed? We do that annually, right? Where the selection of the bank?
Oh,
That's the next one.
that's next month, I think.
Okay, we'll discuss it then, to
Okay.
make sure that there's equity in the community over, what bank and all
Right.
that stuff. And it's important that you give the reasons why you recommend to the district why we use such and such a bank. Okay, entertain a motion
I move to approve.
by Mr. Lindeman,
Second.
second by Mr. Sabal. Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Sabal?
Yes.
Dr. Gomez?
Yes.
Mr. Bereen?
Yes, item 3H, discussion action on approval of the superintendent appointment of Cesar Soto, Chief Financial and Operations Officer at Student Activities Auxiliary Treasurer for the district. Mr. Lindeman.
I move to approve.
Is there a second?
I second.
By Mr. Sabal. Discussion. Yeah, anything you want to add? I mean, that's pro forma.
Yes,
No.
I told Mr. Soto this morning, if anything goes wrong, then it's his fault.
Always is anyway.
Well, all finances
That's just-
go
Right.
through his office.
Yeah.
Every single finance goes through his, and that's the grants, that's everything.
Everything.
He's got to be on top of all of that stuff. He's responsible ultimately for all the money. Entertain a motion to approve.
Thanks.
We already did.
Oh, we
Motion on
already
the
have
floor.
it?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Roll call.
Roll call.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Sabal?
Yes.
Dr. Gomez?
Yes.
Mr. Bereen?
Yes, item 3I, discussion action on approval of agreement between Public Consulting Group Incorporated and Douglas Unified School District Number 27 for Medicaid school-based claiming program. Ms. Samaniego.
Okay, this item, I'm going to ask you to table it right now because our attorneys were going back and forth up until last night, and as of this morning, we didn't get a final document, so if we can, or not even attend to that item and bring it back at a later date. What do you
That's
think?
good, because there, I think there's some
Yes.
questions
Uh-huh.
regarding it.
Yes.
I had them so good.
Okay.
Instead of tabling, why
Uh-huh.
don't I just remove
Move
it
it,
from
yes,
the
uh-huh.
agenda? And if I don't hear any disapproval by members of the board, I'm just going to remove it from the agenda. That way, we don't have to table it
Mm-hmm.
and then get specific about when it comes back and all of those things.
Mr.
So,
Brain, so just for information, are these the people that put in claims for the district?
So this is the company that gets all of our paperwork from our ESS department or our special
Yes,
ed
yes.
department, and then they reimburse us for those services.
Okay,
Yeah, we get some money for Medicaid billing.
okay, just so that I
Yeah.
know for the next
Uh-huh.
time, okay?
okay, formally, members of the board, again, I don't hear any objection. I'm just going to remove it from the agenda. Okay? Item J, discussion action on approval of the 301 performance pay plan for the 2020-2021 school year. Ms. Samaniego.
Okay, this is a yearly item that needs to be approved. The committee met and is recommending their 301 performance pay plan proposal for 2021 school year. And obviously, if we were to start online at any point or continue online for the school year, the committee is going to have to figure out how those plans would be submitted, because obviously you don't have children that you're working to face, but you'll be teaching them online. I do want to reiterate that under the 301 plan, the non-eligible employees are substitute teachers, administrators, the TOSAs or instructional coaches, nurses classified, personnel, counselors without a teaching certificate, librarian without a teacher certification. So those are the people that are not approved by this, couldn't receive the monies from this plan. So next month, we will be bringing the TOSAs under the subsection H like we did 2 years ago, and every year for approval.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
first of all, do you want to approve this now?
Yes.
Let's get it on the floor for approval.
I move to approve the plan.
By Mr. Lindeman.
Second.
Second by Mr. Sabal. We go through this every year with the TOSAs. And I don't know why we have to do it separately with the TOSAs, because when we adopt the 301, we can state under provision.
Subsection H.
Subsection, I think it's 5977 subsection H, right?
Yes.
So we can say
Okay.
that they're being approved under subsection H because of their contributions. What
Yes,
is the
it's
language?
professional development
Yeah,
under
professional
subsection H. Mm-hmm.
development, because we don't want to exclude them.
Yes.
Ever. So, and I think I speak for the whole board.
Yes,
Yeah.
I was going to
Okay.
ask the question. question myself. Go ahead.
Yeah, so,
Can the motion be made that way then?
yeah, so I would think that it would be appropriate to say that we approve the plan, and we might have to do an amendment to the motion, but to include the TOSAs under subsection H.
H.
That way you don't bring it back as
okay.
a controversial individual item, and then we have to explain what we're doing. Because it is 977, right? 15-977?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, it is.
And, right, and just so that we're accurate here and for the record, so that everybody understands, that the board has the option of including those people, there's 5 subsections there. And H says that we can approve them, I wish I had the specific language, that it's school improvement or something like that, isn't it? That we want to say in the motion, if you'll amend the motion. to
Yeah, I
include
amend the motion to
subsection
include Subsection
under
H,
subsection
15977.
A, is it A?
D.
B?
D. D is in dog.
Okay, you got it?
Subsection HD.
Okay,
yes.
so if you'll move for that amendment, then
Yes.
is there a second?
I move to that amendment.
Okay, is there a second, Mr. Sabal? I'd rather you.
Second.
Second by Mr. Sabal. Any discussion on the amendment? Roll call.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Sabal?
Yes.
Dr. Gomez?
Yes.
Mr. Bahrain?
Yes. All right, now we're back to the main motion, and the main motion now includes the TOSAs specifically, and I'm redundant, but for clarity, specifically under subsection A of 15-977. Okay, so they're included, all right?
Okay.
All right. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Sabal?
Yes.
Dr. Gomez?
Yes.
Mr. Bahrain?
Yes. Okay, good. So now you've got some direction.
Yes.
And of course, then you've got to wait and see what unfolds, right? with
Yes.
With the rest of that. Okay. Item 4, discussion items, request for future agenda items. Item 5, announcements, Ms. Samaniego.
Just next regular board meeting is August 4th at 10 a.m. And again, our first day of school would be August the 17th, 2020.
Mr. Burning?
Yes,
But we
Dr.
would,
Dr.
if we needed to, you would call a special meeting.
Yes,
If
and I-
things change drastically or whatever, we needed
Yeah,
to,
right.
yeah.
Okay, if you need it.
Yes.
Right. Okay, then we have item number 6, executive session. The governing board may vote into executive session pursuant to ARS 38-431.03 subsection A number 1 for the following personnel matter. A, discussion action on fiscal year 2019 vacation leave reimbursement of 10 days for Superintendent Ana Samaniego. Entertain a motion to go into.
I move to go into
Excuse me.
executive session.
Okay, go ahead. Entertain.
I move to go into executive session.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Sabal. Roll call.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Sabal?
Yes.
Dr. Gomez?
Yes.
Mr. Bahrain?
Yes. Okay, well, so we'll be in executive session. A, discussion action on the reimbursement of 10 days of vacation leave for the fiscal year 2019-2020 school year to Superintendent Ana Samaniego based on her contract. And in the motion, if Mr. Lindeman makes it, if you'd include the sum of $5,072.05 for the record.
I move to approve the recommendation, or the reimbursement of 10 days vacation leave in the amount of $5,072.05.
Second.
Second by Mr. Sabal. Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Sabal?
Yes.
Dr. Gomez?
Yes.
Mr. Berrain?
Yes, and thanks again, you guys, for taking your time and cooperating and all going through this thing together, and hopefully things will get back to normal soon. Entertain a motion to adjourn
I move to adjourn.
by Mr. Lindeman,
Second.
second by Mr. Sabal. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Thank the Lord.
Dr. Ed, you'll be, Dr.